so many updates I have to read again tonight. So today, November 10th, Jagex releases the Game Jam 4, I believe that is, overview in October 2023. This is a long one, so buckle up. This is going to be probably at least half an hour. Anyways, let's just take a look at it. Today, we're taking Old School's 4th Game Jam and taking a look at some of its pitches. Brr, as we enter the last quarter of the year, it's time for cozy socks, warm blankets, and Old School's 4th Game Jam. Game Jams are our sort of new and improved ideation process where JMods across the team join forces and create awesome content pitches. We're talking devs, community managers, QA, art, and more collaborating on passion projects that will hopefully one day make their way to the game. Later this year, we'll have a live stream where we'll look at the projects in greater detail. But for now, we have a chunky overview of everything the team's been working on. This jam's theme was sailing themed. The brief was simple: design things that make the seas of Gielinor feel alive and provide some interesting and notable new areas to explore. To be clear, we did not address sailing training methods. That's what the core sailing team are working on. Next week, you'll find out more about our proposal or our proposed timelines for sailing and what we're doing next. Broadly, the Game Jam focused on 3 kinds of content: islands and points of interest at sea, standalone content that can be placed at an island or POI, traditional content that can be placed at an island or a POI. Of course, we also had a few more general projects in the mix. Keep reading to see them all. Before we kick off, however, please remember, all these projects are just concepts and are not guaranteed to enter the game. Well, just taking a look at the contents of this entire blog, this is going to be a long read. Alright, we're going to kick it off with the first one, Rune Pouch Bank Integration. One of the biggest quality of life suggestions we've seen over the past few years is being able to freely interchange your runes inside of the bank. While during this game jam, Mod Ash took it upon himself to make just that. This feature is built in for your convenience and allows you to get runes in and out of your rune pouch much easier than before. And while inside the bank interface, not only will you be able to put specific runes directly into your pouch, but there's 4 handy loadout options for your customize. Speed up bossing, farm runs, and more. Take a look. This literally looks so good that you can have different loadouts for your rune pouch, right? Part of the reason I don't use it too much unless I'm at, say, a specific boss is because I don't want to change out all the runes every time, right? But if we could have one for farming, like they were saying, one for X boss, one for another X boss, right? It will make it a lot more convenient and just better to use. I don't know if 4 is enough though. Next, we're going to look at the lighthouses by Mod Melee. Alright, so we don't know yet what navigating at sea will entail, but Mod Melee has had a real light bulb moment. It's likely that the seas of Gielinor will be dangerous. Sailors may find themselves navigating open waters with no land in sight and perilously low draw distance. The last thing you want when you're trying to keep an eye out for rocks and sea monsters is to have to open up your world map, or else stick to familiar safety of the coastline. From the west of Relica comes an illuminating solution to this problem: lighthouses. I thought this was like the lighthouse at Barbarian Assault, but I guess it's not. Mod Melee's project explored how a few strategically placed lighthouses might allow players to sail more efficiently and provide new and interesting gameplay to boot. She's designed a potential sailing HUD featuring compass points, the sea, and the horizon. For now, lighthouses are displayed as circles. The flashing pattern and size allows you to identify a lighthouse at a glance, and they get bigger and higher on the HUD the closer you get to them. Different areas around the lighthouse display different colors to indicate danger, so you'll know right away if there are rocks on the horizon. Don't worry, in the final version of the HUD, we'll be taking red, green color blindness into account. So here's what the interface might look like in the game. In this example, sailing from the Karamja shipyard to Port Sarim is as easy as lining up the Sarim's gate and Willow's beacons to set a course. Of course, you're free to leave the HUD unopened, although that would be the equivalent of not looking at the horizon while on a boat in real life. So let's just take a look at this little video quickly. So it looks like they're on this island right here. I really don't know what the hell is happening. Okay, I guess this would be the HUD right here. I don't know what to think. Again, this interface is not final. Lighthouses are just for finding your way around. Here's how we could expand this system for different kinds of content. Puzzling quest selections, where the key to navigating treacherous waters is to follow a set of instructions using lighthouses and landmarks. Navigate treacherous waters, chart the path, and then build new beacons to open traffic to other boats. Is that a lighthouse or a pretty collapsed lady winking? Better look. Do we want to signal sea hazards and points of interest? Do we want to have buoys and other sea marks, see them mapped on the world map? Yeah, we do actually. So, this would be like where I don't even know where this is. I can't think of it right now, but there would be like the different buoy things in the water, different little landmarks. Okay, next we have Sailing, Islands, and Dungeons by Mod Necro. We want the far out waters of the big blue sea to feel alive, a living environment full of wondrous creatures, mysterious objects, and many interesting areas to explore. This time, Mod Necro's Game Jam project aims to give you a taste of what kinds of places you might encounter while sailing. First up, we have Crab Isle, a small island untouched by human hands, but not crabby claws. Here, you'll be able to collect special bait found exclusively on this island and use it to summon the giant crab boss, defeat every level 1 RPG's player's worst nightmare, and you'll obtain treasures and some tasty crab meat. Okay, so these are the pictures that we get. So it looks like a regular RuneScape cave. There is the crab boss. And this would be like the island that it's on. So it looks like a regular small island, maybe a few activities, a few trees to chop, and maybe that's the cave entrance. I don't know. Is there any more pictures? No. Next, we're venturing to what we've dubbed the Lost Chasm. This desolate island has almost been lost beneath the waves thanks to a lingering evil hope to return to its powerful demonic form. Venture deep inside and discover the mystery of the depths, if you dare. Okay, this looks like a random event. Revenant Island by Mod Manked. From Islands of Mystery to the Island of Risk, Mod Manked's Game Jam project welcomes you to Revenant Island. Since the removal of multi-combat at the Revenant Caves, the wilderness is lacking in hotspots for multi-teams. Often, the risk versus reward doesn't quite hit the mark in our existing content. But at the same time, we don't want to go back to the dark days of players being locked out of exciting activities by powerful clans blocking off entire areas of the game. That's crazy that actually happened. Revenant Island aims to solve these problems. Located off the eastern shore of the wilderness above level 30 sits a not too distant bit of land, only accessible via a ship. You'll also need 50,000 GP, which will be lost upon death on the island. This is a high risk, high reward area. There's only one way in and one way out, so you can leave the teleports at home. That's very interesting. Okay. Revenant Island will promote multi-combat PvP gameplay with areas both above and below for you to engage in thrilling battles against other players. Below, you'll find a dungeon similar to the old Revenant caves with plenty of walls to encourage hugging, and we don't mean a quick cuddle. There will be multiple escape routes, so players aren't guaranteed death if they choose to engage with the content here. There'll be plenty of variety of these routes, and there's a bit of a strategic gameplay in picking the one that advantages you the most. Of course, there'll be fitting requirements to meet before you can use them all. Alright, I'm already maxed, buddy. Anyways, let's take a look at this. Just looks like the regular cave to me. Obviously, the main allure of this area is the opportunity to kill fellow players and yoink their loot, but there are also a group of revenants that call this island home. Not only can multiple players attack the revenants at once, they'll also be in a small consolidated area, creating less downtime when killing them. We'd also like to increase the rate at which superior creatures can spawn, creating lots of opportunities to grab more loot. The spiciest reward of them all will be the Revenant Collector. This magical item automatically collects drops from NPCs while the user is in the wilderness, provided you have the space, of course. You will, however, need 500,000 GP to activate it, which will be awarded to any player that kills you. Okay. I like the thought of that. That might be very overpowered in certain scenarios, but at the end of the day, you can still get killed, so it makes sense for the wilderness. Next on the list, we have Project Rebalance by mod Arcane, Halo, Husky, and Kieran. Moving away from brand new things, this team used their game jam time to decide how we should improve older content. I already like where this is going. We've seen many conversations over the years, both from our community and within the team, about healthy changes we could make to help make the game feel more well-rounded, from skills to equipment and even changes to certain NPCs. There's a lot to look forward to. There isn't room in this blog to get into details, but you can expect more information about the exact changes we want to make very soon, not least because we'd like to make them in January, and we need your feedback ASAP. Okay, so next is Sailing Quests by mods Bruno, Elena, Earl, Halo, and other. Quests are a fundamental part of old school RuneScape. Yes, I agree with this. We go beyond killing 10 boars to bring you exciting stories from all over Gielinor, filled with puzzles to solve, evil to defeat, and hapless citizens in need of help. Gielinor's vast ocean is no different, and that's why this game jam team used their time to come up with a collection of seafaring quests that introduce new places and characters while remaining tied to the traditional questing gameplay you know and love. We've got started with not one, not two, but 4 quests during the game jam. Each of the first 3 quests is designed to tell a standalone story while building up to the thrilling conclusion in the 4th and final, for now, tale. Without dropping any spoilers, these quests contain desert islands filled with fiendish puzzles, tricky torsion tales, a very rude sword, and more cursed items than you can shake a hook at. We can't wait to share more with you farther down the line, but for now, we hope this gives you some idea of the sheer variety of stories we can tell at sea. Okay, so taking a look here, there is Stranded, we've got Treacherous Waters, and Trial by Water. I like the names of these, and look at the quest points going up to 308. So we've got Intensive Skilling by mods Ellinia, Goblin, and Rice. And sorry if I'm pronouncing any of the names wrong here. From one integral mechanic to another, let's talk about skilling. Leveling up is one of the most exciting parts of old school RuneScape, and our skill diversity is one of the biggest selling points. 100% agree with that statement. However, for mid to high level players, skilling is seen as means to an end, a grind to complete before you can access the most fun parts of the game. Our most elaborate, engaging mechanics are typically reserved for PvM combat, but the Game Jam sought to change that. Our goal was to get more players to enjoy skilling instead of seeing it as an obstacle on the path to the end game, but we also want to cater to players who love skilling just the way it is. That's a very hard thing to actually figure out, so let's see what they do. We know that players love fast-paced, mechanically challenging combat content like raids and bosses, so we've explored how we could design similar content that focuses on skills. Please, more skilling bosses, Jagex. We do think that sailing should feel different to PvM thematically, and it definitely does. Even skill-based bosses like Wintertodt feel more like skilling than combat. This is because it preserves the elements of rhythm and repetition that skilling thrives on. A learning we're definitely building into our design. We also want to ensure that unlike combat, exciting new ways to train are still peppered all throughout your journey to 99. Instead of all being unlocked at the end. On that note, we sought out options that went beyond skilling bossing. After all, we want skilling to be engaging even when you don't have a giant enemy monster looming over you. Come on. More intensive training methods also give us opportunity to feed skills back into themselves and integrate them with other skills they might not have meshed with well in the past. There's even potential to have combat upgrades as a part of the reward space, bringing things full circle. The problem I see with that though is people are going to do the content to unlock the combat upgrades, maybe not enjoy the content. While our top priority this game jam was thinking up content, some of which you'll see farther down the blog, we've also focused on creating an accessible method of tick manipulation. Although we've never officially made this a strategy before, we recognize that it's a popular technique and would like to create content that encourages players to give it a go. Having mastered tick manipulation in a relatively safe but engaging skilling activity, players will be well equipped to use it against a big scary boss when they encounter one, and we can do the same thing with other PvM-esque mechanics. Now that you know what we're going for, let's see how Mod Rice put these ideas into practice. So we got a skilling activity, rapid harpoon fishing. Alright, let's see what this is all about. This fast-paced fishing activity delivers a more intensive version of harpoon fishing rather than simply clicking the spot and tabbing out. This activity challenges you to predict your target's movement and react swiftly to get the catch. While stood on the bridge, you'll see fish swimming downstream through these different columns at varying speeds. The fish always spawn at regular intervals, but they move at varying speeds. Click the right fish at the right time and you'll have an improved chance to catch the fish. Okay, so I kind of see from this picture here, there's like different columns and the fish will be coming. And I guess if the fish is at that exact spot, you can harpoon it. Smart idea. Sometimes two fish might spawn at once, but watch out. One of them will be a big fish or a poisonous fish. Big ones award additional resources on a successful catch, but poisonous ones will destroy a percentage of the fish in your inventory. Wow, that's bad if you're fishing like sharks or something like that. And they're a guaranteed catch. Both of these unusual fish types award the same amount of XP, so if you're a canny player who wants to maximize your fishing time, you can aim for the poisonous ones to free up some inventory space. That's some smart thinking. Jesus Christ, I didn't even think about that. Alternatively, if you're hoping to build your supplies, you'll want to aim for the big fish so that you can get back to the bank faster. This kind of on-the-fly decision making is at the heart of our plans for skilling. So far, I like what I see. This activity also provides an opportunity to get to grips with tick manipulation. Players can quickly attach a rope to their harpoon to gain beneficial effects, and you'll want to do it quickly because these fish aren't waiting around. Don't worry, tick manipulation isn't required to practice or to participate in the activity, but players who master it will be rewarded with higher catch rates. So the next one here is the skilling encounter Mud Boy. Okay, this mining encounter blends the themes and mechanics of mining with PvM-oriented mechanics. The Mud Boy begins the fight lurking just below the surface. Players must mine the pillars in the boss room to release the lava within and force the creature out. It will then attempt to release the columns by filling mud, all while attacking the players. Dodge the mud, mine the pillars, and whittle down the monster's health to proceed to the next stage of the fight. I thought they just said they don't want to do any more skilling bosses. I'm so confused. At a certain health percentage, the Mud Boy will become rock, which means it's now mineable. Keep out of the way of its devastating ground-targeted attacks while mining as much as you can. This is another skilling activity where tick manipulation is an advantage. It's possible in both phases of the fight, and when done correctly means that players will never have to miss a mining action to dodge an attack. This is a challenging mechanic, but we've no doubts that our more dedicated skillers will pick it up in no time. For everyone else, this encounter provides a good opportunity to master the technique or build upon the knowledge you've gained while harpooning fish. I like actually what Jagex is doing here, right? So tick manipulation was never really supposed to be a thing, but now that it is a thing, they're using it for actual gameplay updates. Alright, so now we've got the Sailing Mini Raid by mods Hen, Skylark, and West. Captain Nakahai was a famed pirate known across the seas for his sailing prowess. He led the crew to endless amounts of treasure, but no bounty could satisfy Nakai's greed. One day, the crew discovered a stash of buried treasure. While the rest of the crew squabbled over their shares, Nakai was drawn to what appeared to be an ordinary human skull. Nakahai, however, could tell it wasn't normal at all, but possessed of powerful magical energy from an unknown entity. What are we getting into? Nakahai investigated the artifact and discovered that whoever wielded it had the power to control others. Lured by the promise of such power, Nakahai used it to curse his crew and banish them to the ends of the ocean. He then searched for a suitable lair, killing the original inhabitants and cursing the few survivors to protect the skull with their very lives. But Nakahai still isn't satisfied. His next goal is to rule over the oceans of Gielinor, and you have to stop him. This raid is aimed to mid to high level players with moderate sailing levels. Like other raids, Coves of Nakahai will have a lobby where players can group up. In this case, a smaller island outside the coves. Once grouped up, players will sail from the island to the coves. Love this, man. I absolutely fucking love this. The lore, everything with it, and the fact that it's mid-level. This is something I think they should have done a long time ago to get people into raids, man. So here's like the concept art for it. So there's Nakahai's ship, and then the island, I guess. This might be the raid, right? So you got like a boss here, a mermaid boss here, some other bosses. I don't really know. Although the fights are linear, the path through the coves will require some backtracking on the way. They'll defeat Nakahai's the cursed separate, Cleor, I'm not going to pronounce these, a mermaid, and something else. The cursed crab under Nakahai's control. Alright, so let's take a look at these, right? We got, this kind of looks like that new boss that we just got. Forget the Leviathan. Then we got a giant crab, which is so cool, and a mermaid. I'm sure all the fucking guys are going to want to try to get that as a pet. Defeat all the bosses and you'll have the chance to get some unique rewards, perhaps including, I'm not going to try and pronounce these if I don't know, some robes, a new mid-level magic set with sailing themed effect, for example, bonus magic damage while attacking monsters at sea. The serpent staff, a new mid-level staff with a special attack. The raid cape, a new set of tiered capes like the ones in Cox, TOB, and TOA with tier 5 pictured. Okay, I guess we'll look at that in a second. The mermaid figurehead, a figurehead modeled after the mermaid, which players can use to customize their ship head. That's so cool. The mermaid flag, a mermaid themed flag that players can use to customize their ship. The hermit crab shell fragment, a tough crafting material which can be converted into defensive plating for ships. And then the pet with a transmog for Cleroy. I'm not sure which one that is. But anyways, as a reminder, these are all just ideas. If the raid ever enters the game, you can expect each reward to be refined based on your feedback. So be sure to tell us what you think in the survey below. So this was the cape, I believe, which honestly looks phenomenal. And I really like that staff too. All right, so next we have the Team Rumble by Mod Sarny. Mod Sarny has been dipping his toes into PvP and designing a fresh, team-based experience, Team Rumble. Before we start, we've got a little message from Mod Sarny. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm going to front this Game Jams project with the fact that I am not an avid PvPer. Me as well. Probably far from it, and I do believe there are people on the team that can do a far better job in making sure that the core PvP experience can be made better. This project was more about something that I thought would be fun and exciting way to give you all a fresh, team-based experience in the form of Team Rumble. If this is anything like the Sacred Clay, whatever the hell that minigame was called, Stealing Creations, I'm all about that. This pitch is all about utilizing cool environments in the game that don't see a lot of use currently. Essentially, it's a Counter-Strike style mode for old school PvP. These were the aims: a team-based PvP, versatile and replayable, accessible for new and returning players, competitive potential ranking system, events, and tournaments. They're making a whole new game out of this. In Team Rumble, 2 teams of 5 to 6 players are spawned into their chosen arena. Each arena has a unique objective. All players start with the same stats, tokens, and equipment. The Rumble set, which can be upgraded in 4 different ways. We have the Finesse Rumble set, minor boost to all stats, so like a hybrid set. We got a Warrior Rumble armor, a major boost to melee and vulnerability to magic. The Hunter Rumble armor, major boost to range and vulnerability to melee. The Magician Rumble armor, a major boost to magic and vulnerability to range. At the start of the round, players have 45 seconds to purchase more equipment and supplies using their tokens. They can choose from a range of gear, items, and unlocks that can switch up their strategy. Protection prayers, new spellbooks, armor, and weapon upgrades, and more. During the minigame itself, the focus is about battling other players and working towards the map objectives. Each round lasts about 2 minutes, so combat is fast-paced and fun. Each time you earn points for your team by completing objectives or defeating opponents, you'll earn extra tokens to spend on better equipment in the upcoming rounds. If you die within the round, you'll drop all your items. Any player can pick them up except the armor. The next round, you'll be bumped back to the basic equipment. Once players reach round 6, all upgrades are reset, so even if the winning team are storming ahead, there's always a chance to catch up. Players also have the ability to drop items on the floor for their teammates, allowing the strongest players on the team to help out the weakest. This just sounds so fun, and I don't like PvP at all. We already have a few ideas for what the arenas and associated objects might look like. Haunted Mine, Team Deathmatch. Rack up kills over the rounds to score points for your team. Using the environmental hazards to kill your opponent will net you more points. Elemental Workshop, control, take over and protect different areas of the workshop in order to gain enough points, and you'll unlock a powerful weapon for a brief time. The Keldegrim Rat Pits, cats versus rats, defeat the enemy team and their creature companions to earn points. When designing a project like this, there's always the question of what gear we should include. Well, initially we thought about adding familiar weapons and armor. This didn't provide the level of coordination we were hoping for. This kind of team-based strategy is something we haven't tried in old school RuneScape before, so to keep gameplay fresh, Mod Serene designed some new weapons especially for this minigame. So with that in mind, we've designed some top level new weapons that try and do exactly what they say, including some new interesting utility items. I actually was thinking about it for a second, and I like the fact they're going to be making new ones. So we'll just take a quick look at this. So melee, we got a powered whip, a wind scimitar, a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to read them all out. Magic, we got powered battle staff. So it's kind of like the same ballpark, right? Powerful dagger for a spec. We've got a powered short bow, different ones, wind blowpipe. Very cool. This will go over them a little bit. So standard plus, these weapons should be slightly more powerful than their standard counterpart, a cheap upgrade for a small boost. Speed, although these speedy weapons still have next to base damage, the extra speed can make for better DPS in combination with the right armor. Stat reduction, while these weapons don't pack a punch on their own, they lower your opponent's stats and give an advantage to the rest of your team. Multiple enemies, as the name suggests, this effect lets you deal damage to multiple enemies at once in exchange for slightly lower damage. Risk versus reward, much like the Great Axe of the Mighty Durok, these weapons give a great damage output at the cost of your hit points, good for coming in hot when things are looking rough. High damage / expensive. These powerful weapons cost a lot of tokens, but the damage output makes them worth it. Utility. These weapons provide something the others don't. Utility. Colossal Shield. This gives huge defense advantage while removing the option to attack. Keep the enemy team occupied while your teammates go on the offense. Nature's Blessing. This item buffs support spells dramatically, allowing you to focus on keeping your team fighting fit. The Rumbled Salamander, if you don't want to think too much about swapping between weapons, this gives you a bit of everything. The Chaotic Orb, use this orb's chaotic energy to debuff your foes and change the tide of combat. Procedurally generated islands and caverns by mods Ed, Lenny, Meat, and Rye. Over the years, Old School has taken a few runs at procedurally generated content with Chambers of Xeric and the Gauntlet, but there's still so much more that could be done with it. RuneScape, on the other hand, has made use of more intricate procedural generation technology to really push the boundaries of what's possible in the game. For this game jam, the team decided to see how Old School could make use of that same technology. The main goal was to create a set of systems for procedurally generation that could be used for all kinds of content. As such, the team has put too much focus on the content itself. Just some proof of concepts to show you, to show off what this technology can do. Those of you who are familiar with RuneScape may remember Uncharted Isles, which sees players exploring randomly generated islands and claim them to revisit at a later date. This kind of map generation can be applied to all kinds of content, not just islands. When we first started experimenting with it in Old School, we decided to keep things familiar by copying the island generation as is, with the same context. This is like fucking with my eyes right now, but it's different islands. Once we saw that the port worked well and procedurally generation was possible, we started thinking about how we could dress the content up differently. How flexible was this system? With sailing in mind, we decided to expand the system to include underwater caverns as well as unexplored islands. In this deep dive, we ironed out a lot of the system behind it all and started to experiment with adding different kinds of content to generated spaces. We can still see room for improvements before we try to take this technology farther in the future, but it's clear that the technology works and can be used to create new areas and populate it with various things to do. With that in mind, we thought about how we might present it to you lot. Okay. One of the coolest things about generating areas this way is that they might be generated randomly. We can ensure the same random generation will appear again and again if we so desire. Players could reliably discover the same islands and caverns again and again, discovering their favorites and sticking to them. These aren't private instances either. Although these islands won't appear on the world map, in a way we'd recognize, we can still group players together in the same place so that they can enjoy the content there together. Let's address the elephant in the room. You probably remember a significant piece of procedurally generated content in Runescape that took a very different approach to area generation than the one we've used here. We're talking about the maze generation system behind Dungeoneering. Dungeoneering is an absolute massive piece of content, and with just 2 weeks of time to work on the project, we had no hope of putting together something that resembles your memories of Demonheim. Instead, we focused on the system itself. How could we use this technology to create more intricate mazes than the Gauntlet has to offer in the same grid-based format? Whether we decide to make something on the scale of Dungeoneering in the future or just want a gnarly maze as part of a quest, there's a lot of applications for this technology, so why not take the time to see if we could get that tech up and running too? Yeah, this looks like terrible, but yeah, I can see the resemblance of the Gauntlet. I can see the resemblance of Dungeoneering, and that would be so cool if they could add Dungeoneering as a minigame and not a skill. Okay, so then there's a huge survey that you can fill out. I'm not going to be doing it on the video because this video is already so long. Anyways, yeah, 3 of these videos in a row. It is what it is. RuneScape just keeps pumping out content. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya later.